Warning! One part of this video contains uncensored, sexually explicit content from a screenshot of one of my livestream replays, which I was unable to foresee or avoid at the time. The reason of doing so is indirectly mentioned in We Won't Tell You What You Can Create on YouTube. Disclaimer: this video is under a live streamer's perspective. The following external contents are used on this video are sourced at the time the script is made. Therefore, it is possible to have anything outdated. Please verify and point out any possibly wrong or outdated statements if necessary. Logan Paul was a pretext of the monetization threshold that is brought in to stifle the new creators' environments and the opportunity to grow. Spammers we have recently seen are for their new moderation tools to further weaken creators, increased advertisement exposure, and anti-ad blocker policy are to devalue the overall advertisement quality. Premium is to out-advertisers, and the membership system and supers are to stabilize the revenue they have transitioned to. The demonetization in general is for censorship through finance, and by extension, the manifest free is to remove protections. If you associate all of them at once, you know what Google is doing at all. Google, through YouTube, is transitioning to what should be called a subscription-based membership economy. That is why they are trying to eliminate the advertisers by radically increasing the priority of advertisement on this platform and even normalizing fraudulent content on their advertisement network, and then shifting their responsibility of paying creators to you, the audiences, through adding more fan-funding features, including premium, super chat, and membership systems, gaslighting us as opposed to the creators directly, while taking the commission charge on their behalf. By enforcing approved narrative in the name of justice or advertiser-friendly, which turns out to be nothing more than censorship, creators have to guess what is actually allowed and not. And through exploiting traffic and engagements, which even Google itself has involvement in, they deceive content creators into the belief that the provided moderation tools would protect them from animal vendors, even though it is already debunked and has caused more conflicts between them and the existing or potential viewers. And by having a rigid algorithm, getting popularity is like by chance and not an effort you have put into. And by extension, it is also designed to systematically stifle the potential newer generation's content creators by falling them to their passivity, weakening their integrity and management, while exhausting their audience's budget, including their time and money, on their source of entertainment. You may have heard Galaxy's pitch about the corporate effect of how anti-ad policies could hurt the advertisement revenue. But in this video, I have dug deeper for the very thing behind this situation to explain how that is a part of the hidden agenda that has nothing to do with the corporate effect. What you see is what Google wants, but exactly because of this, that mechanic is far more scandalous than we already have clue of. Long story short, follow the fucking money. The reason I am making a new term above is what this really is. A mixture of both membership and paid subscription. Simply calling it a paid subscription is too one-sided. Paid subscription is about periodical payments, and membership system is all about loyalty. What they are pushing right now is Not only you, the audiences, having to pay monthly on what you don't own at all, you have to be loyal to an owner you have been following. This way, as there are too many doing the same, they are really expensive when they add up, and most of them will have their rewards expire after a certain period to create the fear of missing out. This becomes far less convenient to switch to another, reducing your bargaining chip when you want to leave. For your information, while capitalism means the focus of private property, greed always has a price. Poor ones have to be prospered for the rich to be richer. This kind of business model is nothing more than going exactly the wrong direction. You have to pay subscription, and then you still have other prerequisites in order to activate that subscription. They want built-in clients and to protect themselves from competition, in a way that the respective law does not cover. Starting with the interface problem, and this has been something it needs to be detailed further, as it has been a worse hassle than anything else, particularly for viewers. When in guest mode, the homepage tells you to watch something in order to get homepage recommendations. Normally, when you log into your account, the homepage will show you something you are interested with. However, when you turn off your watch history and wipe off those, it also wipes out all of the recommendations you would potentially watch. What comes to you first when you are trying to watch a video? Most likely advertisements. Forget how annoying it is for now. Look at what the advertisements are talking about, and then switch into another video to see what kind of advertisements they are showing you up. If you block them, there is a chance you end up being pushed for premium or have to turn that ad blocker off. The other one is the YouTube Shorts, the results of its competitor TikTok, how it gets popular among the youngsters by making it short, vibrant, entertaining, and sometimes informative. More importantly, every time you swipe away to another short, more likely you're getting a chance of exploring anything you are interested in than the traditional approach could. Shorts are down below almost every single time searching anything, even if you are on PC. However, similar to the homepage recommendations, if your watch history is off, there is nothing inside the shorts after the homepage. Even if you watch shorts after searching, scroll down a bit and this tells you that your watch history is off once again. This is a problem when YouTube literally could just supply that user another short relevant to the last short he was watching. In the comments section, as you watch any video that has enabled, you can easily find a channel link by clicking the time after the channel's handle and the link to the channel itself. The problem is, it has been using handle since like a few months after it started as the primary identifier. Even if you go to Studio nowadays, it comes the same. It shows the handle rather than the channel name, and you have to click the handle in order to reveal its channel name. During an ongoing live streams chat room, whenever you are pressing the More Options button or somewhere else's chat on the chat room, and you only get 2 options to report and block. It might not be a big issue to you because you are basically not going to check out the user's profile. This wasn't always the case, which the channels were accessible through clicking them on the chat room. I could really add plugins to resolve this annoyance myself, but by the end of the day, having to, not wanting to, use all those extensions just to retain those experience is simply unacceptable. If you are creating content because you want money and did not do so on behalf of anyone else, you are also the merchant who sells your content. As a result, besides having to create your best possible content,
You have to understand what your potential target base wants and present the best service accordingly. However, to some extent, we have normalized the exact opposite. Audiences have to worship and respect the creators. Make no mistake, it is not the necessary respect as everyone knows, but the loyalty and offerings to the creators. Here comes an excerpt from a smaller live streamer I knew. It is time to consider turning off the subscribers only mode. I don't think so. What is right now is fine. Why? Because of spammers? That's one too, huh? And those who came here for theirs. When I go, but this has been debunked for years. They don't have to use live strategy to vandalize your live stream. Starting a high traffic attack then reporting you as artificial traffic is already enough to get you into trouble. A few hours later, only to receive, at least I did something to defend my channel, and I get to use what YouTube gave me, and I wanted to see that way as a reward for subscribing to my channel. Refrain from guiding how I should manage my channel at all. That is none of your business. And then the last two messages are deleted a few hours later. So when they shifted the reason into live chat is a reward when you subscribe to my channel, it is amazing that even a basic interaction feature can become a loyalty or even illusory reward. And this answer was not the first time. And then I realized that they did not live by the motive, support to the creators. So by the end of the month, I walked out from his community, went for another, and never returned. Another one isn't raw either, which is the policy of their content, including the ban of reposting, which they tell you that they are going to take proactive measures against those who reposted them to other platforms or so. Understandable that they do not want their content being re-uploaded, causing their reputations going away. It is a bigger problem that when they then remove contents themselves for any reason or even none, and those who reposted for this reason got taken down. I have seen one used to follow, prohibiting reposting without permission, only to see his channel disappeared a few months later, meaning I can no longer have access to. Is that how we are supposed to support the creators then? This is in names only, but what I reacted is what Google may want at all. While creators have gone this incompetent, this is not always their fault, as multiple cases are the result of the YouTube's treacherous features. Now here's the thing, their exploitative monetization policy. From Henry Kissinger, who controls money, controls the world. Money is one of the most essential incentives for content creators to their content creations, including their budgets when they want to enhance their quality. According to my knowledge I gained through reaching out to people who have similar content creation direction or even a career with me, I have the following preliminary conclusions when people decide to apply for YouTube partnership to earn money. Number 1. You want to have some extra income on top of your life. This is more like if you started your content creation career as a hobbyist. Number 2. You take your content creation as a career. In this category, more like you want to make it your full-time job. And then you have a dream to be one of the most popular content creator, making millions per year. Number 3. The feature is only available if you get approved after passing the threshold. These people wanting to be monetized never means to make any sense, but they want the features requiring to be that. This comes true to me too, back in the days, except it was pretty easy to be a part of. Number 4. Google places ads on your videos that is against your desires. YouTube places ads everywhere for any reasons against your desires. In this case, demonetization is a non-issue. Louis Rossmann has this encountering. According to Google, maintaining the overall quality and providing advertisers a safe environment to promote their goods are the purposes of setting up the threshold. That is why they have been enforcing a prerequisite to apply for YouTube Partnership Program since early 2018, stating that they want to maintain a safe environment which is 1,000 subscribers and either 4,000 watch hours over the past year or 10 million views on shorts over 90 days. On top of it, obligation to qualify a set of rules per content after being approved. There are two parts. First of all is fan funding. Since June 2023, that registration threshold for fan funding is 500 subscribers and 3,000 watch hours. But what is fan funding? It is something you almost always see nowadays on YouTube, where there is a button resembling that you, a user, have to pay. Instead of further explaining how it exactly works, I would simply proceed to where the problem is. Creators only take 70% from what audiences paid, as supers and membership are always prepaid and have to be cleared upfront, and prepaid cards are also accepted. So Google always secures the fund from their fans and not having to deal with the publishing cost and any possibility that advertisers tricking through invalid payment methods at all, as they are post-paid, which prepaid is no longer accepted at all, which means grandfathering the prepaid method for the ads was to limit the choice for advertisers, but they wouldn't even want to admit. Value-added tax, when required, is inclusive upon the final price that the user pays, which means someone paying $1 including a percentage of VAT, that dollar includes the tax he has to pay, leading to another decrease of what creators get. If the respective creator doesn't have his TIN provided, an additional 24% withholding tax on all revenues. If they do so, it is between none to 30% earned from the US. If Google demonetizes you, a content creator, for any reason, and the fan just paid you beforehand, all of the fan funding goes to Google, even if they said that it would go to charity. If you haven't reached the monetization threshold, in the studio's Earn page, you will see the green star on the membership description. What's the matter then? First of all, the older logo would resemble 3 people, implying that they were gathering, possible relationship, or even a family. For today's, it is a single star that looks like a celebration going on, resembling someone with high popularity, a celebrity, implying condescendence and patronization. The number of audiences and their money or time they have are both limited and not necessarily stable. You can't get every single content creator to reach the monetization threshold, and only a few can ever be on the top, while most others are simply then eliminated. Much the same way, when more and more alternative video platforms seek a similar business model, including the paid membership system amid YouTube's success, more and more general users are unable to collectively pay that much money. Ultimately, only the ones who really care about their clients can take the cake. And we are talking about very few. How much money per month do you expect to earn on YouTube, assuming that you don't use other platforms at all? Let's say that is $6,215 pre-tax, and US median monthly income in 2022. Your fans have to collectively pay more than $8,878 per month. That is more than 1,776 members as the $5 tier. And that is still not inclusive of any taxes your fans may have to pay. To visualize the difficulty of that goal, here you can see 4 hentai artists at median popularity on Patreon. They do not reach the US average even though they may not need that much. Only the higher popularity with about 1,600 members or above can safely call it a full-time. On the other hand, the 4 down below are some samples of the popular creators on YouTube amounting more than 100,000 subscribers, in which Gamma's Nexus is above 1 million that also has membership systems on YouTube. And People Make Games is just a bit more than 500,000. See the margin of how many members they have. On the other hand, that website is a paid membership service to begin with, has a commission charge of 12% on premium plus processing and payout fees. And even if all other surcharges are included, like exchange fee for about 5%, it is still about 20% better than Google's 30% as a whole, especially if to be purely used as if it is a tip jar. Despite the unthinkably difficult goal, there are overwhelming numbers of live streamers who want that so bad they made basic engagements including live chatting to be a perk of their subscribers. Indeed, not all, but from my observation, more than half. And there are far more channels set up that membership offering and those who promote it compare it to years ago. So overwhelming that I would like to challenge those people who would then tell me that I could close out and find another to count how many popular channels they have been subscribing to have the membership feature enabled. Because I can bet that they haven't seen how infernal it is out there, and it's even worse than any other paid sites like Subscribestar, Patreon and even more that already is. It is not rare to see them offer their private time with you as a part of that reward. Some are gameplay with you, one is private message, sharing contact information, one is potentially guiding what they will do next, which I did not show it here, and one is simply videos that Google demonetizes. Do you think this is appropriate? During a live streaming, if the creator sets his live stream chat into members only mode and you are not one of them, the join button is actively highlighted after those words. You won't see this on the subscribers only mode, you have to press it as where it usually is placed. When you are on the mobile application, even if you use Rampant, which is currently called Rampant Extended, watching any video by any channel that has membership enabled and there are prioritized comments from their members. Even if you are using the default filter, they are still highlighted after scrolling down a bit. What's even more disturbing is the existence of $500 tier. This price is equivalent to the daily limit of buying supers. 4 of them is the weekly limit. Not to mention, Google is taking $150 for each tier of that price you pay. More than 10 months worth of premium membership. This is how Google trying to bypass the supposed supers limit. And then we actually have people who make it, and the ones who pay for. For this reason, membership gifting is not really that worth mentioning, the feature which is also popular on Twitch. The other one is Super Chats or Thanks. The former is for live streaming and the latter is for comments. Which out here is to be briefly touched on. Super Chat is an immediate fan funding feature on live streaming, where you pay to highlight what you said on the top of the chat in color boxes, which others can give you a like and comment to your Super Chat, unlike the regular one. And like the members only mode, which adds another join button, this one also encourages you to buy a Super Chat. Super Thanks is for comments, where the amount of money you have paid is shown before the comment. Once you go above $5, the same way as the Super Chat does, your comment is highlighted. I used to use both features to seek special attention over supporting the creators as a whole, until the day I realized that the 30% commission is intended to transition away from advertisers. Most importantly, those are counted as donations, and there is no possibility to receive refund unless it wasn't a legitimate transaction. Unlike memberships, which you still could have a chance to request a refund through Google in case of non-delivery without written notice. I have an experience that Super Thanks that I paid for being wiped out on the moment I switched the comment sorting from the best to newest. Not moderation, more than just being simply wiped out. Without notice, and refreshed that again to confirm that was already gone. I have that transaction record to the hill thanks to the permanent stats. And if that kind of model is so profitable, then why don't they make it for everyone? Or why did they just lower the fan funding threshold? It could be difficult to figure out for an average person because this is not an average capitalist will do. But to me, pay a little bit more attention to what they are doing and you will find out that one of their goals is Matthew effect. Winner always takes it all, and to have the rest unable to actually do anything against corporate veracity by keeping people obsessed to earning higher traffic and thereby throttling people busy on creating content at a far higher overall volume and even quality that not everyone can ultimately afford to follow, while giving them false hopes on their goals. The day they changed the art shown on the description of how membership works from 3 living beings gathering to a single celebrating star, they really are showing you what this really means in an artistic approach. Same goes for Twitch, except that threshold is far lower. If a new creator nowadays has never touched that threshold, he or she is more likely incentivized to the first 500 than the actual 1,000. However, even aiming at that within a short period is an expensive all or nothing gamble in the first place, including a significantly increased workload, relationship building, promotion, and even overall spending. And even if they get that approved, their fans have to pay for it in order to get their first paycheck, which watching ads during this period is useless. When more successful creators publicly brag about their paid members, they are also implying to new creators that they could do the same when they have passed their threshold. When those new creators pass the fan funding threshold and have them enabled, they will imitate their ancestors' method towards their success. Because everyone has one's own dream, most creators only know that fan funding will earn them more. If making creators brag about their paying members won't inspire new creators to set up their memberships to get their supporters paying, there is a bonus program that pays certain creators $10 for every single member the creator gets, up to a certain number, even if they would only join once, and at the 99-cent tier. Ruben Sim, one of the biggest Roblox investigator, made a public post to urge people join his membership after adding it, showing that bonus program in front of the public. The VTubers you are looking at is one of them. The successful ones often have to live stream 30 or even 50 hours per week, and then marketing their merchandises, collaborations, and even corporate events after huge numbers of preparations. When other costs, like anime-style art, are included, the risk is even higher than what you already can see. If you are a fan of so and you know any of them seeing that as their main vocation, try asking them how infernal it is to be a VTuber, even if you are not. I am a 6-year failed live streamer that has something I can relate to. First of all, I live stream at least once per 2 days, averaging more than an hour every single live stream, and most cases there is no one, and I often narrate myself nonetheless. Considering how YouTube keeps pressuring the respective creators' paid membership plans to the users when enabled to get that percentage on the methods I have mentioned, in the financial perspective, it is a Ponzi scheme. In short, creators can earn more through fan funding only because their fans have to pay even more, assuming that they pay. That way, YouTube can sustainably profit from the narrative. Creators need to eat too, and have creators price out their fans without thinking about their financial well-being that significantly affects their revenue. By extension, because of that, YouTube will never have to compensate the advertisers that they owe for what they did. Neither do they have to worry about them leaving. This is like a tipping system which is commonly seen in restaurants in the US, which companies do not pay workers well, leading to them always expect to receive a tip. That even the Americans themselves are getting sick with it nowadays, and at here, corporations are taking another cut from the tip. For creators themselves, particularly the new ones, including the unrealistic requirements that by today's quality standard are beyond annoyance. Given that the Super Chat has been here since 2017, approximately a year before the monetization threshold is enforced, and their membership in 2018, Google has been engineering this before they announced the monetization threshold, meaning Logan Paul's behavior was really just an excuse for Google to necessitate that threshold. How this is a big problem, you can no longer actually support creators by just watching, even if you end up watching ads on the channel without a YPP apply it. Exactly why I have barely been upgrading my video quality, putting the code subscribe only if you are willing to on all of my live streams description header to live by, and no longer proactively marketing my works elsewhere. What is the point of progressing towards monetization or building up communities without living by the motive broadcasting yourself? I even abandoned my Discord server for the same reason I realized that I was straying away from the code. I don't want to be lazy, at the same time I know too much that all those opportunities are fake, and whatever they instructed us to do doesn't ultimately grant us a reasonable return. While that percentage is apparently an industrial standard, if they would at least increase the service components over the 30% that they take, let's say interaction features like Twitch does, it would be a totally different story, as that commission would be a better bang for the buck. Or lowering that commission from 30% to 20 or 15%. Not only that would be easier to satisfy creators, it would way less likely be seen that Google craving for their fans' money on creators' behalf. Roblox has a similar monetization model too, and it's even worse. In 2021, people make games, publish a video about them. First, the 30% marketplace fees for every single lit transaction, and then approximately 65% cashing out through developer exchange. The marketplace fee, as of today, stands even worse for the sellers as a higher percentage goes to the creators instead. Twitch cut, as a normal affiliated streamer, is half, meaning after taxes, less than half of what the audiences paid would land on them, except bonus assist for a large one-time purchase on the user's part. Steam's overall service is also 30%, and they often have to go through its on-trade markets for extra income. Meanwhile, you get an excellent all-in-one set of community tools as a developer and interactions as a player without additional fees. And your $100 entry fee can be refunded after a gross revenue of $1,000. For users, you also have plentiful service components you can use, including one-click workshop library, refunds on problematic titles. They often promote random games you potentially have interest in and regular sales rather than using advertisement routes, meaning developers don't always have to spend more to promote them, and most importantly, they do not have paid subscription themselves, and most of the titles there do not go through that route. Now for the second part, the advertisements. As someone who is never possible to touch the possible line of the YPP threshold, I can only gather information from the experience of a guest for a few days and from other channels who shared their experience. When a channel has reached the 1,000 subscriber and 4,000 watch hour threshold, therefore being eligible for monetization through ads and has it enabled for its videos, advertisements show up while users watching it. Depending on what kind of ads watch it, how long, and if they have clicked onto it, channel receives the respective amounts of revenue for that view. That is why it is pretty annoying when you watch any video from a monetized channel. If a monetized creator's monetization status is limited for ad suitability, far fewer ads are served through their content, causing far decreased revenue from that source. However, the share coming from the users who pay premium isn't affected. From what I've gathered, the monetized videos are also getting their impressions reduced. Advertisers willing to place ads on limited videos might not have their request fulfilled at all. This is what's causing today's advertisement quality to a straight downhill. There's a comment on this video talking about how your ad revenue starts going to YouTube instead of you if you don't post anything for more than 6 months. But what I saw was not that bad. According to YouTube, AdSense is deactivated after 6 months of inactivity on that side, including the lack of revenue on operations. Whenever that's the content on question is purely that creator's work, the fact is still ridiculous enough that is reasonable to support his statement. There is a scenario that this rule hurts. Someone had to go on a hiatus for a legitimate reason, like on the university, and all of his videos did not get any view and therefore his AdSense account was deactivated. A few weeks after his AdSense was deactivated, one of his videos blew up in popularity. All of the revenue for the ads served through that video went to YouTube directly. YouTube serves any ad all over the platform. If you are not under YPP and YouTube places ads on yours, you don't get a share of it. Neither can you prevent them from showing when YouTube wants to. This way, YouTube can effectively shadow ban creators without YPP by putting potentially inappropriate ads onto their videos. Imagine yourself that you made a serious video that you wanted to have no ads, but you were not eligible for that YPP, and then that video gained sufficient attention for YouTube to place ads onto. Not only you aren't getting a share, the people who have no knowledge to blocking ads are also annoyed by it. Remember, the majority, even today, does not even know ad blockers and how important they are at all. The upcoming premium part explains how that hurts advertisers or even creators the longer watch hours a user has consumed. Besides, there are multiple creator support features that you need to be monetized just to access them at all, which means in order to get in closer touch with Google support, you have to earn it. Much the same way, when you are demonetized, not only you are deprived from earning anything on YouTube, they have locked you out from a large number of features that one day you will need. And it is increasingly common to see popular channels reporting at least once that YouTube is demonetizing their content for those violations, having to sort those out themselves to get it back. In worst case, being never eligible for YPP again, videos being deleted without you knowing, and some of them getting terminated from all of the mainstream platforms within the same day. This is unthinkable. If people took a little deeper dive on those problems regarding monetization thresholds, they wouldn't even think of relying on YouTube in the first place. But who cares about it anymore when you got no other choices? That is where the YouTube's audacity comes from. In this part, there are a few cases to show how moderation is basically up to their sole discretion. They decide who are to be moderated against, or what kind of specific content you cannot post, but others can. Some sexually explicit content exists on YouTube. If you search them, there is a chance it appears right in front of your eyes, often getting millions of views before Google would delete them. And yet, there are age-restricted videos according to the community guidelines based on the title, but set to made for kids for its content. The obvious ones can easily abuse this to the ground by tricking YouTube into setting those contents into made for kids. In this way, not only you can't save them to the playlists, nor can you comment at all. Can you believe that a video like Domame combining with Tom and Jerry is really that? Tigerholic has a similar dilemma, and he ended up all of his channels associated to that account being terminated for videos going through comments on a hentai image board, and had his appeal rejected. But then, he also called out someone who did a similar thing, walking free on YouTube, and took his fans pressure YouTube on this concern to reinstate his channel. Then he got reinstated for a while, only to be terminated by YouTube once again. In addition, I used the word fucking on my last episode on my own journey of wealth for describing episodes, and then within the next day, they already decided to age restrict my video. But when someone posted an inappropriate spaghetti on my live stream, they would do nothing about it. Instead of just admitting their behavior and appropriately allowing those sexual content while devoting a team to resolve certain issues, including illegitimate declarations, they punish people based on random basis, or basically allow it. Even if sexual content is out of your concern, the existence of racism within the moderation under the narrative DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, as critical as double standards on sexual content. On 25th of August 2022, Korea's Kenshin, one of the most popular black YouTuber, posted out a video about how his video was age restricted, while anyone else doing the same was not.
So I looked at that part. The first thing I did was try to find other YouTubers who had that part, or at least a part similar. Now, Markiplier, I don't know if you'll ever see this, but I just want you to know I have a lot of respect for you, and I didn't mean to drag you into the middle of this. Your channel just happens to be a great reference point because A, you're a really big YouTuber, and B, you're not black. So I can look at your channel, and then I can look at my channel or look at anyone else's channel and make sure that the things and the games that you play, that they're enforcing the rules equally to everybody. So I go to Markiplier's Mortuary Assistant Part 3, and he had the same situation going on, and his video wasn't age restricted. So I send a video to my YouTube rep. I say, hey, Markiplier has this situation in his video, but his isn't age restricted. Could you send that to the policy team and see what they say about that? He said, wow, Corey, that's some astute detective work. Let me send this to them and see what they say. What do you think happened after that? I'll give you a second. They came back and they removed my age restriction. They took it off after they already rejected my appeal.
How his appeal was rejected, age restriction going away in a sudden, and then being age restricted again, along with Markiplier he referred to. This is the 2023 Black Class Spotlight video published by YouTube, featuring some popular black creators, which he called its 2022 series condescending in that video. Has their entire view count invisible, so let alone like counts. Even the last year of it would still have the 15 million views showing. That video indicated all of his accusations the most accurate way possible, but they are still doing that as if he was in the wrong. Now the search prediction is gone the moment you relate YouTube a racist. Basically, the first video to be Corey's accusation. This is outrageous and is way beyond the case of racism he talked about, and YouTube isn't hiding the fact that they are censoring him. If he is quitting YouTube for this reason, I'm sure something even worse has yet to be talked about. I also have noticed that he is back on YouTube, so at max it would only debunk a speculation that he would be going away due to exploitation. I also have purchased his new series Monsters We Make in addition. There is a Chinese-speaking documentary channel called Shazi explaining some trivial cases, using his own skills and tones, was kicked out from the YouTube Partnership Program for reused content, taking a few weeks just to negotiate with YouTube and get it back. Although there are far more channels similar to his type of content, there are certain channels having no problems at all. For instance, there are channels clearly using the same content over and over, being able to place ads, and potentially receiving passive income from it. Some of them just add a few new clips, and are mostly the pre-existing ones. In this channel, which is SCP explained, until recently as the progress of the making continues, their channel is filled with compilations were using their pre-existing animations they made 2 years ago over and over, hours and hours of it. When these are played by any automated units, they are also amounting their advertisements to the same content market as different IDs. Yes, that is their content, they can make money off them, but clearly this is repetitious, defined by their monetization guidelines. As of today, one of these compilations is still monetized. In my defense, for whom may concern, almost all of my live streams containing pre-existing games come with my own playthrough experiences, even though sometimes I do upload certain highlights as a new video. Now coming to another side of this problem, this time is about approved narratives. There are 3 examples. One is about COVID vaccine, one is about Ukraine where they banned Russia from monetization, one was about the US president election in 2020. Russell Brand is one of the closest cases here. He was removed from the YPP completely only because of reporting those, which they call it misinformation according to the mainstream, and the Tucker Carlson's network, known for interviewing Vladimir Putin, ended up the same. Those are some types of content YouTube doesn't want to place any advertisements at all. Therefore, every single time serving their videos is a total loss. Even though there are always certain types of advertisers willing to put ads on those, that is another story. Ironically, there are certain channels of the same orientation have no problems by YouTube. When I look at OSBN, one of the most paid channel among the politics, and Newsmax, which has been one of the most popular right-wing media after first kicking out Tucker Carlson, And then we have as a sniper wolf too, as a TikTok creator who does a jack streams a few years ago, and then YouTube would just demonetize her for a while before reinstating her back to the full monetization state. In the advertiser's perspective, according to YouTube, she was not welcomed and would not be eligible for YPP again as Logan Paul would be. Even to this day, SSS is still on full operation and it is still going up. Normally, if you, who barely has any viewers, did it, more likely, immediately, you would be terminated from the entire Google service. But why isn't she ending up the typical consequence? My assumption is less of content category she falls under, but to pay attention to the comments, her fans, foolish loyalty, or even potential moderation, and the possibility that she has been someone's sock puppet for covert actions. If Google could afford to do that, then so does it manage risks on them, and it is less likely relevant to money, but more likely a much bigger conspiracy. In case you haven't heard of Mr. Beast, the most subscriber channel on YouTube, there has been a whistleblower, Dogpack404, alleging him to be false advertising, including soliciting users' subscriptions with non-existent giveaways, promoting the illegal lottery, staged probability, or even marketing gambling and unhealthy food as selfie to children. It has been spoken multiple times by anyone else, but I'm explaining the other findings. Every single video he made over the past year has more than 100 million views, and many are near to or even over 300 million. If his average net revenue per 1,000 views is at least $5, he pockets more than 500,000 or even $1 million for every single video he made. Assuming that their views are real, hosting a legitimate $1 million giveaway every quarter is as simple as a piece of cake. This immediately erects a few critical questions. 1. Why are they opting to scam people even though they literally can afford to host that legitimately? 2. What is the probability for an entertainment company in North Carolina within 4.5 years and only approximately 2 to 3 videos per month to have a subscriber gain that is more than one of the biggest Indian music label T-Series? 3. Are there any hidden meanings of "I give away because it makes me happy" written in his channel description? Does it imply that he is fake all along? In September 2024, one of his products, Feastables, has been known for failing the quality, causing the lack of sale, where they had a lunchbox set started for $20, which was later attempted clearance for $5 and wasn't successful. And the customer you saw that bought a stack of it is insufficient to even talk about. This alone already is pushing people to question his popularity. I also looked up Mr. Beast, followed by negative terms at the time that the accusation kicked in. Almost guaranteed that there aren't any more predictions unless you add an S on, like fraud to frauds, or another word, but positive, there are. And I mean a lot. And as of the making of this video, the search term Mr. Beast fraud does not show up in the video made by the Dogpack404. In most cases, I get the drama videos relevant to his accusations by most of the other popular creators. I had to use Mr. Beast's scam in order to see the results from him, until a few weeks later it had to become so popular that YouTube's suppression starts to collapse. And then it goes back and forth. At mass, you get a result followed by scandal Tamil. To be fair, I have almost never touched on Mr. Beast like I wouldn't even touch on most other popular creators, because most of them want money and absolute loyalty more than actually being legitimate, putting enough creativity. I used to have giveaways, but I found it never worth the cost at the time and later scrapped it. That was why you would hear Mr. Beast again here. YouTube has rules that giveaways have to be free. according to the law, which YouTube does not have legal rights to manipulate against. Given that his highest subscriber count profile, anything he does impacts YouTube's overall reputation that Google knows it. If YouTube wanted him to stop, they would be doing it before people talking about his problems at all. But this is not enough. Sometimes flying profanities or doing something that obviously will get you demonetized or even removed for hate speech is rather not. I'm not against those, and a lot of things aren't even that bad to the advertisers as a whole, but this is what it is. Into the next session, which is relevant to spammers, scammers, widget algorithms, or even abuse. Things are actually getting spicier than what Mr. Beast's scandal already is. This time, it is linked with the exploitative monetization policy and is stifling a lot of creators, especially the smaller ones. First of all, what would you do if you want to increase your subscribers outside content creation? You could be an active commenter of everywhere but only feel like Justin Y are popular enough. Or sub for sub, which you subscribe to a channel in exchange of his, hers. Back in the days YouTube wasn't this popular, I was also one who engages in traffic boosting, like when I was just some sort of kids creating content for no reasons. It was more like sub for sub. That eventually creates an interconnected community sharing content each other's as a whole, even though it was already banned at those days. However, there is a legitimate intention that rhymes with today's individual VTuber communities where people contribute to each other for collaborative creations. No matter how creators help each other, there are always creators who will never be able to qualify the threshold requirements, often lead to frustrations. For that reason, some of you may have minds on finding other ways to boost your channels. Under this desperation, you will likely end up in a traffic market for it. Now think about why and how artificial traffics are processed, how much you have to pay, what you potentially can get, and the potential risk for using it. There is a website called PromoSM, which some random spam bot brought themselves into my scrutiny by commenting it, and which I searched into thereafter. As soon as I have reached the website and took a study about their promotion system, it is really the thing Google doesn't seem to care about, which they claimed that they do. You can access the login table, then go to a list as follows without an account. According to the table here, you can point out the price per 1,000 views. This is mostly a scam, or at least it won't work anyway, but there are other bots out there for this. The point is, there must be demands from somewhere of seeking fast traffic boosting, and monetization threshold is almost guaranteed to be one of the factors leading to it. Think of this way, if you could monetize your video as soon as you have made a few original videos, rules would not stifle your creativity, and even if sometimes you would only earn a few cents per month, then there would be far fewer reasons to even be incentivized to spam or even buy traffics. Much the same way, subscribers only mode for live streamers would be far less needed. What is even worse, YouTube itself avails a similar feature. If you are a creator, you can check out the button Promotions by watching your videos using your corresponding account. And vulnerabilities exist in the traffic after clicking a thumbnail to a video, such as viewing, ratings, and the reporting systems by extension. Someone from somewhere who has a major moneyed interest to outright harass a creator could easily weaponize this kind of service and compromise those sets of exclusive policies that the creators have put into. They really don't have to go after anything else, not even the creators' chat or comments, as long as they do not publicly parade on it. If he has more money, he can abuse Super Chat and their membership too. Not only creators are completely defenseless to it, in most cases, without checking it carefully, creators will rather see it as a raid from another live streamer. Even if it doesn't lead to any account suspension for that, the moment they realize that the traffic they gained was fake all along, is still enough to ruin their moods for long enough that impacts their foreseeable future's performance. This is a speculation on YouTube for now, but on Twitch, this has happened. There are actually stalkers buying bits to bombard streamers. Here is the translation of this VTuber's announcement relevant to it, and has to make it into 2 pages because it is too long. I used to witness spammers on YouTube using super chats, but unfortunately I did not have that screenshot that proves it. This renders limiting your basic level service into exclusive perks to be like gatekeeping anywhere else in your city, but one is always open for anyone else after doing something you wanted them to, where invaders can initiate an attack through that one. This is my fear when people are vowing for merciless gatekeeping, because gatekeeping is a form of security, and security is a two-edged sword. Its effectiveness is highly dependent on its functionality, the ones who control it and how it is used. Because if you don't block out bad customers, it ruins your business. Yet if you don't trust anyone, you cannot do anything. And if the gatekeepers are traitors or its mechanics are designed against you, things only get worse than the strongest invaders getting in your way. If you are a Twitch streamer and you have limited your chats to certain privileges, including verified accounts, followers, or even subscribers, you can also try to go live without it for a few days and see if you see this kind of spam. Report them and see how long it takes to hear back that they have actioned their report. I have seen and done this more than 3 times every single month, and every single time reporting it gets actioned within a minute. The speed is so fast as if Twitch already knew the existence of it, or if they were the ones making it. There are also scammers pretending to be artists providing channel art commissions. They even follow those channels to bypass the followers only chat, but unfollows as soon as their attempt is either succeeded or failed. Even if you report them, Twitch would basically do nothing about it. There are so many small live streamers suffering from it, including myself, and many videos about them on Nation. So when I claimed that subscribers only mode is a part of this conspiracy intended to silently divide away their audiences, I precisely meant it, especially for long-term operation, and so many live streamers take it as their loyalty reward or to seek follower counts on Twitch and YouTube, which I see it's too dull to look cool at all. I even used to attempt to pursue the others to refrain from using those features based on all of my witnesses, and that has been rather ignored, or worse, being called interfering their business. And you, a creator who uses those, might ask me if I have the effective method to prevent this kind of spams happening on your page. Ask not that, But who are the ones creating those problems to necessitate your use of those tools and how it impacts your viewers in long term? Because outside the creator spectrum, like a game's post-release development, if a game's popularity grows to a point and that number sustains, it needs some sort of public relationship and potentially a moderation team. Scale varies by necessity, unless developers can do it all on their own to keep most of the things in tracks. This is like the coin game, one of the earliest arcade survival games that he is the only one developing it, has employed Kwa Lee on publishing his game in 2024. But the problem is, we are seeing a far increasing number of treacherous units over the recent years. Those people are seeking all of the controls and then gatekeeping against anyone they don't like. Godot's community managers inserting wokeness into that is a prime example of how, which they went from hiding anyone from voicing against it, blocking them thereafter, which is inclusive of major donors, to blocking them from participating in their code on GitHub. The incident was so extreme that Godot's damage control wouldn't allow you to reply on their post. Thereafter, most of the users they gained were gone. Much the same way, the verification scheme, which is supposed to identify legitimate users, have rather increased the effectiveness for any largely scaled spammers. Those are red flags for legitimate advertisers. In X, for example, it is not really hard to see someone spamming fake crypto investments and then someone replying it with a combination of random numbers to increase their exposure. On YouTube, by searching with some keywords like free robots or free V-Bucks or so, it is easy to see some people live streaming as hosting free giveaways. These channels look normal or even popular, with apparently a real person sitting on a chair talking about giving away robots or V-Bucks, soliciting anyone who wants those for free. But the red flags are really just around the corner. This includes the days of live streaming, live chats, the video session, the links, and more. Some of those channels have blatant signs that they are stolen. Here is a channel I discovered while I was searching some random videos involving free robots. Clearly this channel had other videos irrelevant to Roblox beforehand, and the creation date is clear that it had a long history before it was ended up in a hacker's control. And there was a time those channels like this uploaded the same short video thousands of times specifically to deceive the algorithm into other bots, and often the users who accidentally clicked into. Most likely, bots subscribe to each other, boosting some of those videos to tens of thousands of views because of the boosts combined. Given that the alternative monetization threshold is to have 10 million short views within 90 days, it could be a low cost for them to pass that through. Some of them delete all of those videos once there are enough subscribers and views pocketed for their purpose and have their monetization application approved. This kind of behavior is at least a straight-up spamming and invalid traffic, which is supposed to be punished for platform abuse per terms of service, or at least have the questionable number temporarily excluded for investigation. In reality, they are not until they become too big to not be noticed. Or worse, not only walking free, many are potentially put on sale, considering the monetization threshold. For the record, bots or scammers like those existed even before YouTube launched monetization for the first time ever. but it was at a much lower scale until they could use the algorithm and the respective game companies' predatory business model by extension to their advantage. The scale today has gone so extreme that COPPA, the Act relevant to child protection, has to ban comments on content made for kids, recalling the dead internet theory, allowing kids inside those. It is a matter of time before they get controlled by it. As YouTube can serve ads on all videos they deem brand safe, just like shadow banning negligible channels with ads. If YouTube wants fast revenue, all they have to do is by putting ads on those bots channels, get it consumed by other bots, and then tell the advertisers that their exposure is wide. Looking back at the promo SM's way on offering monetized views, I'm sure that they can even automatically click ads. That is how they are exhausting away advertisers. And even so, they want every single cent advertisers left for Google, so that they could necessitate fan funding for that commissions from the viewers in the future. Application of that partnership typically takes a month for the outcome, and rejected ones take another month to reapply. And we are talking about the biggest video hosting platform of the world. Tell me how you will make it make sense. Because I think that this is intentional, that they want you to always think that even the biggest companies cannot complete something that could often be easily done. For similar reasons, my level of scrutiny about AI, as everyone believes when OpenAI introduced their Sora project, opening the door towards AI-generated videos, is the same as any typical internet fraud already could operate well way before AI came to the world. Moving on to the widget algorithm, as that bots can engage with each other in order to trick the algorithm that those videos have high engagement. The similar problem is predating on creators' creativity or even audience base as it grows. Imagine that the algorithm randomly promotes your video to an audience base which may have zero interest of their kind, leading to low click-through rates. And later, the systems no longer boost your content because they think no one will watch it anyway, according to the low click-through rate it led to. Or much the same way, you made a video that contains algorithm favoring themes, but it's not what you really love to make, even though it blows up your views by far. For most of the creators wanting to build their audience faster, this is nothing more than influencing them to do what YouTube wants them to, rather than what creators are interested in. I had both ways experience. Once a 10-hole live stream of which the impression number blew up by hundreds of thousands as opposed with others at thousands. Even though that kind of content has a far lower range of actual audiences, every single day doing live stream has my number of impressions at thousands. And the click-through rate is even lower than ever. In comparison, the next episode of that was at 706, previous at 570. On the other side, Coin Pusher Casino, there was only one view during the entire live stream, but thereafter, the view count went up through the roof, and it took about a week before it goes away. Before that, only less than 1% of my live stream replays would reach over 100 views within a week, just as the 10-hole list. Google tells those creators who haven't qualified for the monetization threshold to keep working, and provide resources to grow their fan base. But the entire point isn't that you did not work well for it. In the past, I too blamed for the algorithm failed to do me a favor. A few years later, I realized that I was right, but talking about that too early. So if there are people whining because the algorithm was unfair like they weren't blasted by that, for the first time, It is most likely they are just seeking attention based on nothing. But if they have to do it again, not that they are spamming anyway, having no efforts at all, it is a whole lot different story. And there has been a case regarding dislikes being invisible from direct access. It's also something you can notice. As it was about to roll out, most of us despised it that we can no longer directly know if the video is worth watching, a clickbait, or anything related to. In fact, YouTube has a well-established system to check the suspicious traffic sources. Whenever the number appears to be fake, part of the number on question is inspected and excluded if deemed invalid. It has been working for good, even before they no longer let the dislike counts be directly accessible by the public.
Looking at the returning views alone, here is a thing. If you already have no interest on the channel you are looking at, and he isn't affecting you, hardly you have any reason to click on it and waste your time scrolling them. For example, I am a former victim of dislike abuse where they continuously dislike my video without even watching a single bit of it, attempting to stray out my potential new audience by having high dislike count in the first place. What happened in the next day was that most of those numbers they made up were wiped out.
It is possible for someone to use API to give video a rating, but the point is that some people may have never watched that video before rating it. All in the name of preventing harassment despite pre-existing mechanics dealing with so. We are seeing more scammers taking that advantage by pretending to be legitimate. Clearly, YouTube is engineering that when they started to hide dislike counts from the public. So let alone that the harassers can still start a large traffic attack that bypasses all of their defenses. In other words, people's concerns about this decision has always been true and it is working as Google actually intended. Exactly why they made it in full functionality. As of this video continues to be made, my comment section was infected with another batch of bots asking how they could move their cryptocurrency funds to Binance, which is explicitly off topic to what I was live streaming. A few days later, they were all gone like it was just ghosts, and then came back and forth. I swear I did not delete them on my own. And as long as those comments remain in place, you can find them on your own. The most evil part here is how this kind of comment appears on a video of absolutely no views, and the number of impressions isn't enough to attract anyone at all. So I replaced Sandbox into Infinite after seeing that Sandbox is also used in a cryptocurrency title, and they did not show up again. Spammers on YouTube are already rampant, and copyright pros are also something creators might be suffering from. But under the current copyright law, while the copyright status of a work is still active, if it's not fair use, the respective holder decides the legality of what part of their content, the place it goes to, who and how it is used, or the ones who access it, which in fact, who has all of the content that is fundamental at the time for creativity, controls the critical portion, if not all, of the creative industries. To prove it, Nintendo has recently stated that you are illegal to pirate anything, even if that is because they don't avail it on their own. Tom Scott has a video talking about how broken that law really is, and the recent Internet Archive's loss on a copyright lawsuit is also close to it. And the rule of account termination, like YouTube's termination upon 3 active strikes, is written on the 17 United States Code Article 512 I-1A. So platforms must have a system to expunge any repeated copyright violators. For example, Discord now has a standing session located as the settings. And one of the possible violations showing up here is unauthorized copyright access. Or manually, Archive of Our Own has a rule that terminates accounts for repeated DMCA claims. And the code cited is what I brought up here. Similar systems are found on Twitch, where it automatically mutes your replace part that involves copyrighted sounds that the copyright holder did not authorize for use on Twitch. This is the most practical way to prevent your account from being terminated or at least struck if that holder saw it and decided to file a takedown request. And that is how the copyright trolls come up. In May 2023, Alex Adson, who runs a channel called Business Casual, almost took down Magnate's Media by purely submitting 3 or more copyright reports getting approved by YouTube based on just a few second portion of public domain content that someone's video used, until it gets drawn attention for investigation and reinstated his videos after confirming it's invalid. The other one is Misen, who has Genshin Impact as the main focus. Some random community moderators having zero relationship with her works requested multiple takedowns of her works in the attempt to remove her entire channel. Initially, her counter notice was rejected by the claimant and had to publicly call out YouTube team on X, and took a few days for the team to realize that on their own to revoke it. Even as of this video is being made, her initial video stating that her channel would be terminated because of this is still here for you to go through, to see how vandals deliberately use takedown requests in that manner. Yes, as long as the information is valid, they are legally in the right to mass claim those people proactively using it, even if they use bots. That is how unfair the DMCA or even the entire intellectual property law are, and it's been a long overdue to be overruled and rewritten from the ground. Even this video alone, some part of the copyrighted content used is enough to get this video taken down, as they want it. The minimum they could do is to have a system that voids copyright strikes if the takedown requests are used in that manner. For example, mass takedown at once only counts 1 strike, the next offense thereafter counts another. A few years ago, I requested copyright takedowns on YouTube because someone made fun of me failing on Minecraft PvP, only for a few years later to revoke it after realizing that I could do so was really because the relevant law being broken and outdated that made YouTube appeared to be prone to me, due to the information legally required for such. My entire fate is up to their mercy. I'm not defending YouTube here because there is a possibility that Google can use this system for censorship, including selective allowance of copyright infringements, or even rejecting submissions based on inconclusive legitimacy. Jody Bruton, whom I have been following since his Windows 11 must be stopped video, I even voluntarily completed subtitles for some of his videos, had one of his videos taken down by a company for certain reasons, and Google rejected his counter notice because they were unclear of whether he had a valid reason to. Submitting a counter notification is a legal level of dispute between the one on question and the claimant, and submitting false information would also lead to the chance of termination. In reality, every copyright lawsuit is measured by millions of dollars if not billions. No companies, not even a $1 trillion one, can afford the risk of losing millions over a single video's counter notification that contains one simple mistake. I repeat, one single video. And yes, platforms have rights to decline counter notice when the information isn't complete. Unfortunately, there is no law that goes over the wrong decision, like rejecting a fully valid counter notice on behalf of the claimant. And the copyright request also allows you to prevent further copies within the website, which means that while the copyright holders can use this to stop people from using their content on YouTube, as long as Google defines someone's false claims as true, he can also use it to prevent anyone else from uploading any video involving that content until it gets discovered to be invalid. If Google itself is having a bad day and decides to censor things they don't like, they will probably let that content go up for a while before taking it down in the name of no longer available or even copyright infringement, which the latter, they could reject all appeals, including counter notifications in the name of could not validate as they did to Jody Bruchon. All those happenings we are looking at, especially on what we have seen on the unfair moderation part. Let me tell you this. There is a sentence written on an article how to earn money on YouTube, reading, "We won't tell you what you can create on YouTube." Based on everything we have experienced from YouTube in the recent 5 years, it roughly translates to the terms of service and community guidelines that you have to agree to. Use YouTube are de facto in names only and enforce it as they feel like it. The rule is different per person, and everyone has to figure out that on their own. This situation is perfectly describing the George Orwell's book Animal Farm, talking about how certain people have better equality than anyone else. I even have an assumption that they already have an internal rating on every single user or even creator. The score is based on what kind of content you create, your background, all of your activities on YouTube and the internet they could track by extension, and even their sole discretion. It is just like a social credit system in China, but it operates not only in the dark from the public knowledge, so are the punishments. For example, getting demonetized without explicitly stating the parts that caused it. And on Google Payments privacy policy, this is actually true in the name of fraud risk scores, and they share to the third parties reliant on it. We don't get to know how Google examines everyone's fraud risk score, possibly as a measure to prevent fraudsters from taking advantage of it, even though fraudulent advertisements are already everywhere. But on the other side of it, if Google doesn't like you, it is possible for them to create a false record on you to scare the third parties about how bad you were. The way more sinister part is in the potential difference of actual meaning between the original language and the translated one. One of them is traditional Chinese, and I am from Hong Kong. The same sentence reads, 我們不會限制你在 YouTube 上的創作空間, which can be roughly translated to, we do not limit what you can create on YouTube. Think about the difference between we won't tell you and we won't limit you. Should the original version of it is English and that is the language that prevails during any dispute, and the one on question doesn't understand English at all, will easily end up misinterpreting that based on the language they know. So what is the point of TOS or community guidelines at all if the moderation is like this? It's okay only if we do it at its finest. While that sentence has appeared out of seemingly nowhere or does not make sense at all, this appears to be an actual rule all along that has been silently enforced. In 2014, Alex Jones from InfoWars made a video about the existence of thought police system through his findings after the video Harlem Shake was introduced to the public.
But what's important to note here is that the Harlem Shake's only words are "with the terrorist" or "we are with the terrorist" in Spanish rhythmically over and over and over again. And that's fine. It's a joke. We've many times made the point that they use Homeland Security against marijuana smokers, Amish people selling raw milk. And so the joke is, oh my gosh, look at those evil Amish. They're with Al-Qaeda. I get the joke. My point is that when school children go to school and sing this in English, as people are now doing, "I'm with the terrorist" over and over again, like Gangnam Style, "Hey, sexy lady," will they be thrown in jail? We're seeing 10-year-olds and 8-year-olds charged with probation officers and going to trial for having water guns and cap guns and just playing with their friends. We're seeing people expelled from school or the police being called for Nerf guns or Hello Kitty bubble guns that project bubbles. Why is the hypocrisy getting so over the top? It's because the establishment is setting the precedent to selectively enforce their thought police edicts. If the globalist mouthpieces of Hollywood and the music industry want to push anti-family, violent garbage and promote mass murder and killing, that's okay. If a song wants to say, "We're with the terrorist," it's just a joke. But when your child's in the front yard playing with a Nerf gun, it's not. When your child talks to friends at school and says, "Let's go play with water guns after school, here's mine," they're going to get arrested and charged. This is part of the thought police system, where they're above the law and they selectively set the rules. So you have been warned. And here's an example of that. I was reading a Billboard article with the creators of this particularly catching jingle, and they said, "We put it out there, we want people to use it, we've told people to use it, but if we choose, we'll block it and claim copyright." That wouldn't hold up in court, but they don't care. Most people don't know their rights, so who knows? They may even block this video because we were mildly critical. In closing, the Harlem Shake and things like Gangnam Style are part of an arrested development promotion system where the social engineers want to basically freeze development of men and women at the age of about 12-year-olds so that we never become serious, focused adults. And having a good time has a place, but you're not supposed to do it 24/7. A free people have a serious and focused mind.
If you pay more attention to the chance of getting banned from commenting, and the more common one, sudden disappearance of comments containing certain types of words resembling potential hate speech like nigger and faggots. Even if it is on any channel that does not have any filter, you actually can notice that the same hidden rule applies to the comments. Probably the last, but certainly not least, besides the issues of double standards beyond madness fan funding, spammers, this one is a business model lots of companies are moving on to, the paid subscription service, which at here, YouTube's is called the Premium, or in the name of ad-free, better streaming quality, and support creators. Let's talk about the Premium bitrate, which right now is only available when the video's original resolution is 1080p. Normally, for the optimal quality at that resolution in 60 frames per second, it is 12 megabits per second, or approximately 6 megabits per second for live streaming. What is the point with the premium bitrate when it only supports 1080p? That kind of quality is as outdated as about 10 years ago. If you can have it better on 1040p, there would be fewer reasons to take the premium 1080p path. It is limited to certain types of channels as well. For example, some of my videos do qualify for premium bitrate, but I don't see this option. The next one is Playables, a feature that was once exclusive to premium. I call it, as the world's biggest video hosting platform, pathetically pointless. Instead of saying itch.io has it far better, why isn't there any Playables relevant to video content? For example, enhanced interactive videos that once YouTube would have. Or even something to do with live streaming that Twitch emphasizes. Maximum YouTube did was additional comments in a super chat, or some stickers, and gift membership was actually reintroduced way later than Twitch. And then the amount of money going to the creators, because premium is advocated as ad-free, but still subject to the cost of collecting and analyzing users' activities. Raw revenue from premium users are only what they have paid for, especially if that premium users has a wider range of channels to watch. The more of them they engage in at the lower margin of watch hours spent per channel, the less RPM per channel generated from that user if he does not spend another cent to it. For example, let's say a user's premium price is $14 and pays monthly, which Google would put about half of them to the creators. One of them watches 50 channels at 1 hour each. Then each channel only receives 14 cents gross from this user that month. Based on ads, however, even if their RPM is $1 on monetized views, that would take them 140,000 views to reach that goal. It would not require those people paying. Can you imagine how many premium users will a channel need to meet the average US monthly income if to completely rely on premium revenue? Let's not go with that huge numbers, but a creator who wants about $1,000 a month, assuming that their average premium price is $10 a month, watching 10 channels per month at equal watch hours per channel, that is at least 2,000 of that per month. It is second to nothing for any creators if to be compared to their average advertisement revenue. To some extent, that is a reason revenue shared from premium users are not affected, while their monetization is limited. Without advertisement revenue, it's already as if they don't want to pay you. Dina Lu has a video talking about how much she earns. The part I have shown you is where she also displays the revenue from premium users. For her February revenue, ads were 2,600 and premium was just 52. On the interface part of this video, I have shown you how Google is guilting you to pay premium by first dumping you loads of long and unskippable advertisements, and then switching into another video would pop up a reminder to upgrade to premium. The point is, look at the contents of the ads. It is pretty not hard anymore to see anything explicitly fraudulent. Things are making more sense when added up. The revenue of premium continues to go up after the enforcement of anti-ad block policy to about 100 million users paying for it. If we search their overall ad and premium revenue, you can see that premium in 2022 made Google 11 billion. In other words, the average yearly charge per paying user is about $110. Premium itself doesn't pay creators well, neither does it suffer such a big server, and they cannot call it no ad without facing a lawsuit after a premium member discovers something that is effectively an advertisement coming from the platform's end. That is why every single website offering a paid membership like YouTube Premium offering ad-free experience do not come with what you get with a fully functional ad blocker. It exists in the name of occasional limited offerings. But here is a thing. If advertisers notices that YouTube already has a source of income from premium members and fan funding by extension, and the former paid to expect no advertisements shown in front of their eyes, it reduces their interests on spending money to place ads. Eventually, legitimate advertisers will quit, leading to decreased overall revenue that will also end up on the financial reports. To keep the advertisement revenue up, they take a blind eye on fraudulent ones. And come to think of it, have you ever seen a physical shop that does not accept cash, calls itself cash-free, as many as websites advocating that kind of perks at free? I have never seen one at all. They are all literally either cashless, no cash, or only electronic payments. Just the same concept as above. If a shop calls itself cash-free, acceptance of cash depends on necessity. In 2017, Visa offered $10,000 for restaurants to go completely cashless. What is the cost for them? As soon as there is an internet crisis, that's it for that. Then what is the very purpose of Premium for the users? Exclusive YouTube originals? It is just nothing more than copium if to be compared to the ones who don't pay and not using ad blockers. It is like being an average user buying a DRM protected piece of software to believe that pirates wouldn't be able to crack that and distribute to the others for free. And then a few years later, only to realize that the said piece of software was no longer functional because the respective company would no longer support that. Or the DRM provider was having a bad mood and decided to block their online verification, effectively breaking what he paid for and potentially screwing the company using it. Given the situation YouTube has been and most of the users aren't even aware of what this means to them, I'm going to do some direct predictions regarding those. On the moderation aspect, almost always in the name of respect, or even a safer environment for creators, they are going to monger another wave of attacks to necessitate their newly introduced tools. It is never meant to work, but all about dividing from your beloved fans, the same way they enforced the martial law during the COVID pandemic. From what we have seen on Twitch, especially the stream booth frequently showing up on all live streamers not turning on the followers only mode, I'm foreseeing a mass traffic related attack from multiple ends, so that they could extend their subscribers only mode to watching any video at all, considering how many creators are now seeking more subscribers by reducing basic service and content. It is going to be a new normal once it fails. Once the number of creators getting used to that has met their expectation, they pause the attack to deceive creators that it would work, making sure those creators who fell into it are willing to be fooled once again. And then when the spammer ramps again, it is all about their subscriber count. By then, there would be no one who would dare to prove those creators that Google lied to them. On their business model, they are looking for the sweet spot where they profit the most from Premium, after planning to add more Premium tiers and raising prices amid high popularity and increasing costs. Perhaps in the future, they will offer discounted Premium if creators paid straight from their YouTube revenue, or worse, replacing certain portions of creators' supposed payout into Premium, effectively refusing the wages creators worked for. In context, on 20th October 2022, they raised the premium family plan by 25% on some regions, and on 20th July 2023, even the individual is no exception, from $12 to $14 per month. In Hong Kong, for example, raised from 68 Hong Kong dollars to 78 per month. In September 2024, the price hike comes in again for some countries. As of April 2025, it is already 88 Hong Kong dollars. They are also trying to outcompete all of their competitors this way by not raising it too much and deceiving competitors into building a similar paid membership business model. Because most of the competitors do not have sufficient resources to build the offerings, consumers have to quit them once they begin to have financial hard times or find those memberships no longer worth the money. Once there are no more possible competitors, they can raise that price to whatever the rest willing to pay. Look at what X has been doing, where its Premium Plus is about $40 a month, which was literally $16 in the beginning. By extension, they can sterilize and enslave all of the new creators, so sanitized as to be impossible to build up their career on their own, having to rely on the big corporations and far more captive on decision making and managing their place than what the currents already are, by not only having to pass through those unrealistically high thresholds, needing to examine the allowed types of content in order to be eligible for publishing at all, they also have to spend far more efforts or even money just to market their content to their desired base. And then a completely elusive through while having far fewer new creators because of the above situation makes it far easier for big corporations to deal with, while users don't get any choice. In mid-2021, I made a video warning about the phenomenon in the future because of the new rules at the time. Part of that video stating, soon, creators wouldn't mind of deleting their content just to qualify YouTube's monetization standards. Now check out this video's disclaimer. He censored the video further just to make sure his video fully complies with the advertiser-friendly guidelines, in case it needs to be revealed manually due to demonetization. And there are countless of videos censoring all of the profanities or offensive words to keep it. For example, regarding AI-generated content, they already have added a declaration of AI on editing description, stating whether it is legitimate or containing altered content. But for scammers using AI, all they have to do is to have proper refinements over any generated content and then not marking it as AI generated. For example, there are 2 blue archive videos using AI voices. This one is the video that has so.
Who are you? I'm you, but better. I don't need that silly wheelchair anymore. In fact, I'm here to steal away your beloved sensei. Steal? You can't mean...
And the voice it sources from.
お疲れ様です、先生。お待ちしておりました。では、本日の仕事を始めましょうか。
For the former, when you scroll down to its description, there is no declaration of AI usage as it requires, until scrolling down to the comments. Meanwhile, this video is doing it correctly.
Hey, just wanted to drop by to tell you something. Ready, God? Take your ass to bed. Turn off the light. Get off your phone. And go to bed.
From what we have learned about the made-for-kit mechanics where certain videos irrelevant to kit are set to it, I am foreseeing the automatic AI moderation where they will introduce an AI filter being on by default, part of the purpose is to shadow ban certain group of people that YouTube, not audiences as a whole, does not want to populate. On the day they are no longer giving monetization to those generative AI videos, and considering the ever advancing AI accuracy, it is also going to hurt those legitimate creators containing AI vibes. Despite all those dystopian level of problems, why haven't people moved it out to elsewhere or competitors able to catch up YouTube? Here is a user's scenario. There was a user who had been on the community A since the beginning, which had been worsening from year to year. So one day he decided to travel to the community B to secretly search the suitability of resettling there, only for him to realize that community B did not have as much resources as he would expect on B, and policies often having no difference with A. What would that user do then? Would he proceed to the community B anyway? And why was the community B that? The correct answers roughly summarizes the entire situation here. Although it has been a while that alternative video hosting platforms have been rising up at an unprecedented rate due to the recent years' treacherous and predatory business models combining with downgraded service quality that happened on the mainstream ones. Many of them I have been on to still have a relatively long way to go. The reason in a nutshell, the beyond imagination costs and management requirements just to operate a video hosting server like YouTube. And here I am trying to briefly explain the factors of that cost. One is the internet's infrastructure. A large influx can happen in no time, like something goes viral and there are millions of people trying to access the same content from the same provider. Even today, a large number of countries do not have the internet infrastructure as it needs today. We the Hong Kongers have more than 80% fiber optic of all buildings, and even some suburbs since 2023 have access to it. The uptime of our internet is so stably high that almost the only cause of downtime is vandalism. When an average US household have to pay about $70 a month for a gigabit internet, we the Hong Kongers are as low as $30 a month for two. It is not normal when US is missing money over a project to build that fiber optic internet access. The other one is all those server equipment, including storages, processing units, and technicians maintaining those. A small server doesn't have to worry about those, but when it grows bigger and adds up to a point, a scale-appropriate security management becomes a necessity. And then further things like a content delivery network, sometimes fallback servers, and even more. As the demands continue to go up, necessitating technologies continue to evolve, we are seeing cheaper overall price per gigabyte and computing power. But in reality, barely anyone wants to do so because it needs abundant energy and relevant facilities to operate, and the willingness to research and take advantage of. Or worse, simply because they want to justify that you should pay more. For example, there was a time All the Fallen, a lolicon-oriented hentai forum and image board in Romania, published their budget of hiring a new server due to the distributed denial of service attacks damaging their existing ones, which was €1,500 per month. And €1,500 per month is more than net average monthly income in most of the East and Central Europe. A content platform like video also needs sufficient content to attract visitors, including diversity of content, the real organic diversity, not the DEI we have been seeing at all. For a user who has been on a platform for years or even decades, Leaving so that loses all access to those old videos is as miserable as moving to another country all alone but cannot bring anything. And many creators don't want users to repost their content without their permission unless people are willing to take the risk to do so, further increasing the difficulty of users moving to another platform when it becomes a necessity. On the bright side of Twitch, its greatest of all time interaction infrastructure that most gaming live streamers have to use them for the best experience. So complete that YouTube or even Kick, for now, is still nothing up to it. By subscribing to a channel, you can use their emoticon in another. And even I, who had an embargo on Twitch completely, have later returned to live streaming on both sides. Better, even if no one follows you while having a decent number of viewers, it is still possible to apply for a partner. Indeed, this does not automatically mean that Twitch is the most suitable place for most of the creators when they use double standards like allowing softcore porn somehow, banning others in the name of hate speech, taking half splits from most creators, could turn a blind eye on real botting, silently allowing spammers like Swimbo to gaslight the creators who do not turn on followers only mode, and instead of repowering the entire algorithm so that viewers are more likely able to explore creators they really want, that increases their willingness to pay for it. They would just exit from South Korea to avoid their 10 times costs. I have been on Rumble and Odyssey a while, which the latter is formerly known as LBRY website. Unfortunately, while there are multiple bright sides, like fighting against censorship, it is not always a comfort to use. Besides having the similar monetization models as YouTube does, that often makes it feel like you did not leave YouTube for good. Rumble, known for its right-wing orientation, they have been working well in terms of allowing people to monetize their works, and you do not have to pass any threshold, as long as your content is legitimately what you made. But in terms of video processing, it's not really that. I tried to upload a few 1040p MKV formats and turned out to be mostly 480p. The actual percentage cut they take is unknown on the rant, but their membership is just as low as 10% and processing fees. In terms of live streaming, feels like Twitch somehow too, but at least I would see it less likely having the followers only mode. But overall, they still don't sound well prepared if to be compared to YouTube. And they are training your uploaded video to their AI machine or even third parties according to their updated terms and conditions. Odyssey, an online service on top of LBRY, the overall system is influenced by the torrent network, and they have a blockchain system recording every single claim, including videos, articles, and even PDF files. For their file hosting, they have something called Blob. The more people use the client, the faster it is. However, every single upload requires you to pay a certain amount of transaction fee on top of an amount of your URL claim, and they have a hard limit of that currency supply. I had been paying for Premium Plus mainly for my terabytes usage of their service, until it becomes one of the earliest websites to suffer from the termination of their respective payment service, which is Stripe, the one that X also uses. The worst part is often taking forever to load. I have heard of PeerTube, but never actually used, which my first impression is like the lack of seed boxes for users to contribute to certain platforms with ease, as what I knew was a platform following and redundancy. but it needs you to have your own platform rather than simply a client setting the auto-hosting allocation as LBRY could. Those are just few reasons out of so many that it is impossible to bring most of the users and creators to a mass agreement. So let alone any plan to take any action, like starting a mass movement to force YouTube change the things. And doing so, like starting a mass move out to another platform when they aren't even ready, only hinders their development. By extension, because of that, there are second to no reasons for YouTube to delete any of those videos condemning YouTube's inappropriate policies. By removing or reducing search predictions on negative views against YouTube's alone, there already isn't anything else those creators can really do. Ultimately, we don't want to see the same situation as in today's streaming services again, like having to pay for multiple subscriptions just to watch certain shows being exclusive to the respective services. So, come to think of it, for the entire year, Reddit ruining users from like raising the API pricing that prices out large amounts of relevant developers, the entire Fediverse literally had the biggest chance to outcompete Reddit and advance to the biggest rival of X, rather than still posting fuck facts on Reddit. Unfortunately, like Mastodon, the biggest part of the Fediverse, I also had walked through certain numbers of notable instances, and looking at their rules alone, there was no major surprise of why they couldn't even gather enough users to have reasons to operate one nowadays, and nobody else wants to build a new instance. And then a brief history of YouTube through my experience. I have been here since 2008, being active almost every single day and counting even to this day. During the good old days in 2010 to 2016, there were barely any restrictions to access or create on YouTube as a child, and YouTube's interface was generally much more user-friendly. There was even a feature that you could put your banner image as your initial channel name on top of a respective video, community-based captions, classic custom annotations allowing far more configurable buttons within a picture. Also, the YouTube poop, which the meme videos are remixed randomly for fun, or as a story too. Some of them can even burst laughter for the entire day. However, if you want to see them today, you might find out that many of them are re-uploaded by anyone else after the original uploader deleted them. The eligibility of YPP, the YouTube Partnership Program, was launched for monetization through ads, was a piece of cake if you had some sort of original content and registered with any YouTube approved third-party partnership networks you ever knew. Here is a notice where my channel is deemed no longer eligible for their program. I only had fewer than 50 subscribers before 2018 and was using that way to access the season-based playlist at the time, but I wouldn't need the monetization itself. Most of the content at the time were easily accessible. Creators were full of creativity and later paid fairly well with the advertisers alone, and therefore basically fewer spammers than today. I started an account as an elementary or primary school child in a computer room during the recess time. Started to be a content creator when Roblox released an initial tool for screen recording. All of those videos at the time were gone because of certain bugs or even vandals. Only very few of those you could see right on that channel were those survived. Then I began to move to this channel to create others rather than Roblox when it started to become a corporate soullessness. Upload some random arcade videos, vlogging, all the way to livestreamer pioneered with Factorial. When Google Plus was a thing, I could imagine how this could evolve YouTube at a revolutionary scale, and alas, that didn't survive due to the fierce competition elsewhere. Outside YouTube, internet in the past would not blame parents for not looking after their children using the internet, and they did it better on protecting them by teaching them how to be safe there. For example, Club Penguin. Yes, I used to have an account there, but only active for a few days. Had some warnings in front of you trying to enable remember passwords, talking about the potential risk of someone getting into a device to log into it. And then one was about not telling real-life things on the internet. Still to this day, some websites like Discord or Steam also tell you about what to be aware of. Just not as much as it was. If you think I'm exaggerating or even fear-mongering, you can walk out from YouTube and try to look for a website having at least a certain popularity that doesn't pressure you to pay, or to at least log into it. Speaking of the purpose of the intellectual property law, it is supposed to be about the right of making money off the creative works. Now it is an orchestrated censorship and anti-competition practices. In other words, it is being used to stifle rather than flourish creativity. More importantly, that law has everything you need and want to stop copyright infringements on your own if you fully own the title. This is how they can use this law against you. It is like Paris Olympic 2024 being taken down in the name of DMCA after negative reviews, and Top Music Adrene explaining Splice's terms of service too, getting taken down for the same reason. Under an era of information warfare where everything can become outdated overnight, and a society that almost never suffices hobbies taking long enough patience, accessibility of content becomes more important than ever, as most people do not necessarily sit there and wait for or hope for the information they wanted. Not everyone is willing or can afford to pay for it, nor as patient as pirates on the internet willing to spend from hours to decades to search the ocean of irrelevance for their desired data. But apparently, to force loyalty, more major companies also are going through the exact opposite. From paywalling content, demanding logins on certain contents, especially porn, to that for simply browsing the homepage at all. The evil is not in the paid subscription itself, and no one inherently hates to pay for digital works or subscription model as a whole. The entire world knows that those workers and companies do need to eat and funds to operate. And most of us are willing to spend big money onto those who do it well. But what we are facing right now is unhinged shittification. 1. How paid subscriptions and supposedly exclusive perks are becoming absolutely bottomless. From being excessive, pointless, increasingly expensive altogether, all the way towards a basic necessity, and having an additional membership plan on top of an already existing paid subscription, which I also call memscription. 2. Large amounts of users who knowingly buy into those business models, perpetuating those companies to force compliance on multiple levels, and even defend that. Unlike the ones who have to do so for their works, and are not given other choices like Adobe for some situations. And 3. Because of 1 and 2, the same thing is extending to everywhere you can ever imagine, including communications, journals, and even education. Not only we are being guilted to pay for it, but in fact, getting fewer and fewer choices that does not have those predatory practices. The worst part is, whether you would pay or not, they are still tracking everything you are doing on the internet. If you have never seen how much data those companies are tracking and you have a PC, then you can try browsing a website you usually visit using Firefox with a uBlock origin, and see how many entries on a list like this image show. In like 2012 to 2015, Netflix manages to significantly reduce piracy by offering a colossal library to watch everything legally at absolute ease for a simple price. Way easier to index almost everything than piracy. Yet today, in the name of copyright, more companies like this chose to repeat the same historical mistake by turning themselves into content providers and becoming more exclusive to respective services, while still limiting users' choices depending on users' physical location, or even removing access completely. And they are charging people for sharing their passwords, besides raising prices from time to time. This includes Sony removing content access of what consumers have paid for in compliance of their content providers in December 2023. Ubisoft talking about users should be comfortable of not owning any games. Amazon's removing access due to licensing restrictions. Disney's previous attempt to dismiss someone's death due to allergy in a restaurant of a Disneyland, based on the subscription agreement he signed up for Disney Plus, is also worth mentioning. This is why terms of service matters. They only stopped dismissing it after the outcry by millions on the internet. They still have raised the prices on their Hulu bundles about a year later. And in the recent years, big corporations are swiftly scooping up everything to force compliance. Things have gone way more blatant since those acquisitions were completed. We are in fact getting fewer and fewer real choices by the end of the year. This includes Activision Blizzard, Mojang Studios, and Mediatonic. For Minecraft alone, a few years after Microsoft acquiring Mojang, they forced everyone to migrate their accounts to Microsoft, and removed licenses from the ones who did not completely, especially the ones who could not. If you want to play Fall Guys for the first time today, you can only get and launch it through Epic Games. Even if you have bought that on Steam, you still have to have Epic Games client and the respective account logged in just to play it. And if you think this kind of internet is miserable, what our shopping complex chains and even the restaurants or shops are doing render the above average Joes. Every single significant shopping center has at least one of their respective smartphone application, and to get people shuffled into it, most of the promotions have since become exclusive perks to their members registered on their respective mobile applications. And we are already talking about parking rebates being exclusive to the members of their complex chain, when it is already only counting the specified electronic payment for the objective when it was supposed to be the result of people exploiting the rebate through refunds. And that has been a thing since more than a decade. I went to a mall one day to check out one of their members-only rebate program, and they were so popular that ended early. Now that they are so popular that the upgraded version of it is already here, you can upgrade to a gold tier by spending a lot more within a year. More importantly, even the tourists are often treated the same that they must register on their app upfront in order to take part of it, as if they will come back in the foreseeable future. And there is already a shopping center's official information that is only accessible through their mobile application or through their social media. OP Mall is this, and that use it to have their own website. This isn't just creepy, but stifling too. You need a currently supported smartphone containing a verified identity SIM, a good standing Google or Apple account depending on which kind of phone you are using in order to install that respective application.
This is not an issue in Hong Kong at all today, only because almost everyone has one. Even the elderly nowadays have one, even if it is probably a lower tier. In comparison to average members-only clubhouses you might be seeing in real life, they have specific purposes and clients to begin with. For example, in residential area, community centers, almost none of them is a loyalty program like those mobile applications. But forcing people to use the internet for the non-internet basic service components alone already defeats the entire purpose of the internet itself. So forget the fact that they are forcing mobile applications and everything there is processed through the specialized line of a deep web. Surface web, deep web, and dark web are completely different protocols. One is indexed and directly accessible. One isn't indexed or even requires certain permissions, including a corresponding account. And one uses a whole different system and requires specialized software to access. And with the recent Google announcement that they are limiting their site loading to be only from verified developers, it is simply going much deeper than just wanting your data directly. Over the past years, there are a few case studies of successful and failed boycotts. It takes people's willingness and actions, and the preparedness of the possibility that they decide to double it down instead. But keep in mind, just because of one scandal exposed to the public, does not always lead to instant boycott or collapse, and the proliferation of the alternatives by extension. It needs to be added up with many other previous issues, and then one of them being simply intolerable as a fuse to explode it. Anheuser-Busch's Bud Light, after hiring a marketing manager who would screw its existing customer base, and later promoted their brand with a transgender, who is also a power creep, had almost all of its pre-existing clients started to boycott that brand, and the sale in April 2023 is 17% lower than the same month of 2022. More importantly, there are a lot of beer brands out there, and boycotting it is really a piece of cake. Better if people look for local ones. Sony, which I mentioned earlier, suffered from a backlash for forcing PlayStation Network account, thereby removing the purchasing access from more than 100 countries that has no PSN availability, and even got caught of changing the frequently asked questions because of that decision. People threw up hundreds of thousands negative reviews on a few days. Certain people got their refund request approved even at hundreds of hours of playing. While some of those decisions are backpedaled, they still locked out their games from those countries where PSN isn't available. The end of reschedule, even though it has nothing to do with boycotting, it is still worth mentioning here, was started from failing to deliver $500,000 to the IDF that Iron Mouse accused, and then its entire talent pools further exposed the entire wage defaulting situation, which had been lasting for years. Before Godot's community manager fell into the rogue scandal, causing its brief downfall, Unity's previous plan on charging people's money based on how many times it is downloaded and they earn led to a short-term boycott. That Godot got the chance to shine. The Unity's later decision to remove runtime fee but increase the pro and above price was indirectly showing how far Godot had evolved among the independents in a matter of 1 year. Godot has been a good alternative as a two-dimensional. In fact, before Unity went into those scandals, there had been a few successful games made using that engine. One is Yakiniku Simulator, and one is Luck Be a Landlord. Buckshot Roulette is after the Unity incident. On another side, Even though everything released by Nintendo is only available on their own consoles, most of them are beyond perfection of all ages. Not just families, but average teenager, adults, or even for competition. Still to this day, barely there are any major bugs at launch. That is why Nintendo is so popular that's not even a successful backlash since Switch. Even that Switch 2 is already beating expectations. Most people in the West can only meet that company with Streisand effect every single time, from Nintendo cracking down on piracy and or restrictive emulators to taking down all of their content users submitted to Gary's mod. Maximum you get outside Nintendo when it comes to AAA is probably Stellar Blade and Astro Bot from PlayStation 5. But the rest are not as great as you think. As Black Myth Wukong, with 76% of sales coming from China, its country of origin, and Concord died within a week due to explicit DEI propaganda. Moving on to Microsoft Windows, which most of us are still using it today too. Linux has been progressing faster than ever, that even their market share is reaching 4% for the first time ever in March 2024. But for now, it's still not a proper alternative in terms of professional software support, user-friendly graphic interface, the lack of software standard, too many workarounds needed for something that can be instantly done on Windows, and certain developers not willing to understand their clients. As Windows copies themselves are not Microsoft's primary revenue, there are far fewer reasons to even crack down on it. The entire reason Valve has been radically developing Linux compatibilities on Steam and the Steam OS by extension isn't because of its market potential, when it would only share about 2% according to their software survey for their Steam Deck at the time, but preparing a real contingency plan. They are forced to do it after seeing the problematic practices of Windows 11, including mandatory Microsoft account, trusted computing, encrypted hard drive by default, the built-in spyware, and what has been happening right after 10 is no longer supported. Including all of the cases above into the concern, I am on the absolute belief that the Logan Paul's incident was not the sole reason advertisers wanted to withdraw from YouTube at all. Even though this is probably another compilation of all of my rants in the past, except I have actually spent the entire year on the scripts alone, the rest used for putting them together, adding all of the researches I made, and the sound recordings, while making sure as few mistakes, missing content, missing contests, or off-topic parts as possible. Unfortunately, I get to finish this all alone, and they are still missing. Laziness was the thing that made me wanted to abandon this project again like I did before. This includes an original card game inspired from Mahjong. Until a few years ago, every day logging into the internet seeing more things, going either more expensive, exclusive, or simply useless. Has my anger continued to go up and become the biggest motivation to complete this video, and it is actually painful and risky. To make sure the regular live streaming schedule isn't affected by this, I have only a few hours a day on average to finish this. And there was no way for me to spend enough time on properly adding effects and even background soundtracks. And the fact that the graphic driver has been no longer usable since a Windows update in late 2023 that led to this functionality of DaVinci Resolve. I had to use Kdenlive to make the entire video. Thus multiple black screen crashes, often the entire PC had to restart. While I'm not leaving YouTube now, I have been fortifying on Rumble and Odyssey. even though I do not currently advocate either website until they are good enough for me to. But you said that YouTube isn't a place for you. I'm explaining it again in a nutshell. YouTube is an internet utility that is simply too big to leave, especially when the alternatives are not properly prepared to take us, and many of their business models somehow also sound like YouTube. And most creators, without informed permission, do not let their users spread their works to where they properly belong. If we have learned a thing on fan-game developments, do not announce anything, but complete and properly refine the entire project, then publish it directly. For the longest time, I would wish to make another Journey of Well Thought episode because of the internet dramas out there before publishing this video. But I fear I would lose interest on this thereafter. For the longest time, YouTube had never looked into the actual reasons users are blocking ads or even the advertisers leaving according to their words, including the fact of stolen or even fake channels being given monetization, channels endlessly re-uploading their videos, or just exactly the same video for traffic farming. It's rather banning people for using ad blockers, increasing the number of ad spots for want of premium and fan funding, not telling you what you really can create on their place, having rights on placing ads on anywhere for quick money without paying creators at all, manipulating the algorithm to stifle the diversity of content and decide the priority of content served to the users while they browse videos on YouTube. Everything we are witnessing is proving that YouTube isn't incompetent at all, and it's not just about more money, but so treacherous a conspiracy that enslaves all of us. And they are masking it off in plain sight while those shenanigans continue. By extension, because of that, YouTube's AI moderation terminating a lot of channels lately is working exactly as intended. Otherwise, they would have halted that on the moment they sensed this would affect themselves. All of the dramas mentioned above are just some part of this big picture, and they are not even what drama should be. They are all scandals or even red alerts that should have been widely heard, especially for the ones who could be relevant to those. All of their sufferings combined should be enough to gain them attentions by tens of millions or even billions of people. If YouTube was just a platform having millions of monthly active users, probably as many as all of the Mastodon instances listed, and even had to rely on people's donation and volunteers due to high operation costs and tight financial situations, there wouldn't be a chance of monetization program in the first place, and no one would blame it. However, today's YouTube has more than 2.7 billion monthly users, owned by a corporation that has more than $2 trillion in market capitalization, that has enough capital, resources, and even political power to resolve almost everything while still laying off thousands of people in 2024. As long as there are still enough people willingly pay for YouTube Premium, buying supers, joining channel memberships, while most of the competitors aren't competent enough, or even simply copying the same business model as the big ones like YouTube do, leading to the lack of creators expanding to other platforms and users willing to push other buttons than the red one by extension, then in the future that YouTube becomes the only commercially viable video platform, they can just double down all of their enforcements without pretending it. Throughout this video, I implied that YouTube is too big to fall. It would be one of the biggest internet disasters ever if YouTube would discontinue itself or lose a significant portion of all content inside for any reason. Not that they will not fall just because they are too big. Besides the sudden mass termination, there was a report that Google admitted Biden-era censorships, but for their market domination they would have. You should wonder why they did this years after it happened rather than on the year they pressured them. On the other side, what we have learned from those services over the recent 5 years is to pay special attention to, first, terms and conditions and anything that relates to it, exactly because every single that is legally binding. In the earliest stage, evil always hides within those agreements, like certain terms survives even after the termination of it, clarification of whatever, and once you have accepted for the first time, you are agreeing to automatically accept all of the future versions of it. Commonly for that, they will send you an email regarding those, including the time of enforcement. Second, the frequency of encouraging payments and/or participation of loyalty programs, plus the number of tiers by extension. The more immersive it is to guilt you to do it, or upgrade to a more expensive tier after paying for, there is already a plan to raise the price. Third, what you really need, the sale points they emphasize in a promotion, everything relevant to it that happens before and thereafter, including how they treat you at all relevant to your rank within that company or its equivalent. And fourth, the potential back actors, those have nothing to do with any part of the public more than a pretext to necessitate something. That is why nothing happens, even if a bigger group of the opposite does the same thereafter. Some random people's bad behaviors too can be used as an excuse to do so, just like Logan Paul has said in the beginning. In short, create a problem, wait for reaction, sell them copiums, advocating them as solutions that leads to another problem. Notice that they have been lowering our expectations by a lot. Yet we did not ultimately do something to stop them, or even cheer big W's every single time they fixed little. That got far worse in the end. That is why people willingly trade away their freedom for temporary security not only deserve neither, but lose both as well. In 2004, there was a flash video from ACLU explaining what the future would look like for sacrificing all of the civil liberties in the name of security, using an online pizza order scenario where even a pizza shop knows your living and working locations, your transaction history, your health reports, and even credit card statuses. Imagine having every single transaction record being exposed to the public because of just one major data breaching in the future, and then a whole swath of companies bombard your inbox to promote their products based on that. Indeed, those are private corporations and they can do whatever they want within their rights. This makes perfect sense, especially if you do have other choices without bearing larger consequences. But in reality, this is not always the case. Certain types of utility-level services are only on certain companies for various reasons, including legal limitations like patents. Relevant regulations today are specifically designed against you. So why do you think that stricter regulations against them rather than more rights to you would mean better for you? Throughout this video, I have only partially covered on how far worse YouTube and many others have become, and how they engineered us to pay companies and those creators like basic commodities. In the end, if a creator has to create algorithm-optimized content to actually grow rather than being able to explore audiences with his own creativity alone, he should wonder what that platform wants him to work on. I am not suicidal, so don't be fooled. If I myself and my channel survives, an upcoming video is about how I believe artificial intelligence is a good thing to reveal their level of commercial morality.